I'm going to walk you through how to make a quilted scrapbook cover. This one specifically has ribbon closure, a little notch so you can hang keychains or charms, and then also some simple applique. Starting with supplies, you're going to want your scrapbook or photo album, whatever you're making this cover for, some simple cotton fabrics, and any little accessories if you're making charms. And then if you want the quilted look, you'll also need cotton batting. To find your fabric dimensions for your outside cover, this is your fabric that you want showing the most of. You're going to find the edge to edge width, so from the back cover all the way to the front, and then you'll add 1 inch for seam allowance. And then you'll basically do the same thing for the vertical height, where you just add on an additional inch for the seam allowance. My scrapbook measured 22.5 inches by 11 inches, which means my fabric will measure 23.5 by 12 inches, and that's both my outside cover and inner lining. Next up is the pockets, so these will actually be folded in half. The height will be the same as your other fabric that you already cut out, and the width will be double the width of your front cover minus several inches depending on how flexible your cover is. And your cotton batting should be about the size of your front cover, but just a little bit bigger to allow for shifting as you sew. Now we'll prepare for the quilting part. So we're laying out our cotton batting and then putting our cover fabric right on top of it. And we're just going to sew our lines. You can do this in literally any pattern, direction, or stitch that you want. I'm doing a fun little like squiggle stitch just to add a little bit of whimsy to it. But you can literally do whatever you want. My favorite thing about working with stripes or gingham is that you don't have to take the time to mark out any of your lines, and you can just follow the pre-made lines. So anyway, once all of your stitches are ready to go and you are happy with your quilting, now is the time to trim off all of the excess batting so that we have a clean rectangle, like the one that we started with. I wanted to add some applique to the front, so I took some fusible interfacing and just made a simple heart, ironed that on, and then did the initials of the people that I made this for. So now I'm basically just figuring out the positioning of the applique, and then I'll do another iron down just to make sure everything is secure and in place before we go in with the stitches. Again, this part is totally optional, and you can have an adorable scrapbook cover without any applique. Now that it's ironed on, it's time to secure it with some stitches. So for the heart, I'm going to do the diagonal stitch all the way around. And then for the initials, I'm just going to do a simple straight stitch. And the reason I'm doing a straight stitch is that I did iron it down with the fusible interfacing, and then I also kind of want it to have a vintage look over time, so I'm totally fine with it coming up a little bit on the edges. The next step is adding on the ribbons. So I just took a strip of fabric that coordinated with the rest of the scrapbook cover, and I made it the same length. Oh yeah, can't forget the little notch if you're doing charms. And for the ribbon, we're just going to do a double fold in. So this will hide any potential fraying, and it's just a very simple and efficient way to make a little tie. So now you're going to secure it down with all of your clips, and then we'll go in with a straight stitch just along one side. Now for attaching the ribbons. First, we're going to find the exact middle, and they are going to be facing inward, coming in from each end of the scrapbook. You can make sure it's exactly symmetrical by having them touch in the middle. Okay, so now we're going to take the pockets and place the raw edges with the raw edges of the scrapbook cover. And we'll place that down and get as close to the edges as we possibly can. Do this for both pockets, and then make sure to pin them down as perfectly as you can, including the ribbon. And then we'll do a straight stitch down each of the sides. When you're going over the ribbon, feel free to go over that twice just to make sure it's super secure. And if you're adding a notch, do that now as well. So this is where it all starts coming together when we place the inside lining over the cover. Then we're going to stitch all the way around the entire thing, but leave a chunk open at the bottom so that we can flip it inside out at the end. And before you start sewing, be sure you've tucked all of the ribbons on the inside so you don't accidentally sew anything you don't mean to. After you've finished sewing around the edges, Then you'll trim off any of the excess fabric or batting, especially along the corners, just so you can have a sharper look on the outside. And now we're going to flip it through that hole that you left from earlier. And once you've flipped it, the last thing to do is secure that hole that you left open from earlier, and you can just do that with a top stitch. And there you have it, your very own quilted scrapbook cover. And you can also do this with photo albums or journals, and it just makes such a thoughtful gift or a fun way to store your own memories. So I hope you love it.